In the weeks following the February 2025 designation of Mexican cartels as foreign terrorist organizations, intercepted communications reportedly revealed senior cartel figures discussing not the DEA, not Mexican Marines, but American military special operations forces as the threat that could not be bribed, outrun, or survive. The DEA builds cases that take years and end in courtrooms. Delta Force runs a targeting cycle that finds, fixes, and finishes leadership nodes in hours. When the same methodology that killed Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi and dismantled al-Qaeda's network across Iraq was officially authorized against cartel command structures, the rules of the drug war changed permanently. On February 20th, 2025, the United States government took a step that reshaped its approach to cartel violence. 8 major criminal organizations, including the Sinaloa Cartel, CJNG, Los Zetas, Gulf Cartel, Tren de Aragua, MS-13, United Cartels, and La Nueva Familia Michoacana, were officially named foreign terrorist organizations under Section 219 of the Immigration and Nationality Act. At the same time, these same groups were designated specially designated global terrorists under Executive Order 14,157, invoking the International Emergency Economic Powers Act. The move was more than administrative. It marked a turning point in how the United States could confront cross-border organized crime. For years, the DEA operated within the boundaries of Title 21. Its mission was to gather evidence, build cases, and prosecute through the courts. The DEA could seize assets, make arrests, and work with foreign police, but its reach ended at the courtroom door. Every step required a meticulous chain of evidence. Conviction rates were high, but cases dragged on for years. Cartels learned to exploit these limits, moving money, intimidating witnesses, and shifting operations whenever law enforcement closed in. The February 2025 designations changed the rules. With the stroke of a pen, the president unlocked Title 10 authorities for the Department of Defense. Under Title 10, military units like Delta Force within Joint Special Operations Command, JSOC, could now use force, gather intelligence, and conduct rapid cross-border operations against these newly designated foreign terrorist organizations. The same legal tools once used against al-Qaeda and ISIS now applied to Mexican cartels. Material support statutes, including 18 U.S. Code, Section 2339B, made it a federal crime to provide resources or assistance to these groups, with new penalties and asset freezes enforced by the Office of Foreign Assets Control. A retired DEA investigator who spent decades tracking cartel networks called the shift a game changer. He explained that while the DEA might spend years pursuing a kingpin, the new legal framework allowed military operators to compress that process into hours. Intelligence that once trickled through court channels now moved straight into operational pipelines. A single intercepted call or message could trigger immediate action, bypassing the delays of judicial oversight. Executive Order 14,157 declared a national emergency, citing the threat to United States security from transnational organized crime. The order gave the State Department power to designate cartels as foreign terrorist organizations under Section 219 of the Immigration and Nationality Act, and as specially designated global terrorists under the International Emergency Economic Powers Act. The Office of Foreign Assets Control quickly warned banks, businesses, and individuals that any dealings with these groups or their affiliates could bring severe criminal penalties. The material support provision swept up not just weapons or cash, but logistics, safe houses, even legal and financial advice. For the first time, cartel leaders faced the same legal and operational risks as foreign terrorist networks. Under Title 10, JSOC units could act where the DEA could not, crossing borders, moving without warrants, and striking at leadership with the full authority of the United States military. The rules had changed, and so had the stakes for organized crime. In the years following September 11, 2001, a new model for targeting and dismantling violent networks took shape inside Joint Special Operations Command, JSOC. The doctrine, find, fix, finish, exploit, analyze, or F3EA, was not born in a classroom, but on the streets and battlefields of Iraq. Under General Stanley McChrystal's leadership, Task Force 714 faced an enemy that adapted as quickly as U.S. forces could respond. Al-Qaeda in Iraq thrived on speed, secrecy, and decentralized command. The challenge was breaking the cycle of violence faster than it could regenerate. Early in 2004, Task Force 714 averaged just 18 raids a month. Every operation required days of planning, with intelligence often growing stale before action could be taken. McChrystal and his planners, including Colonel Bennett Sokolik, realized that to have any hope of dismantling these networks, they needed to treat every raid as the start of the next, not the end of an investigation. The F3 EA cycle was formalized that summer, each phase feeding the next in rapid succession. Instead of waiting weeks to analyze seized documents or interrogate detainees, intelligence teams worked side by side with operators. Data from a single cell phone or laptop was processed within hours, producing actionable leads for the next target. By 2006, the results were unmistakable. Raid tempo surged from 18 per month to over 300. Operators and analysts met daily, sometimes multiple times a day, using secure video links to synchronize efforts across Iraq. The process became a loop. Find a target using signals intelligence or human sources, fix their location with drones and surveillance, finish with a direct action raid, exploit every piece of information on site, and analyze it in real time to generate new leads. This relentless cycle broke the back of Al-Qaeda's leadership, collapsing networks that had once seemed untouchable. The same approach proved decisive against ISIS a decade later. As the threat evolved, so did the tools. Persistent drones, satellite imagery, and cyber forensics compressed the timeline even further. In Syria and Iraq, JSOC elements could move from intercepted message to strike in less than 3 hours. Portable decryption labs and biometric scanners turned every raid into an intelligence goldmine, feeding the next operation before the enemy could react or relocate. A retired JSOC planner describes the shift as a revolution in tempo. The old model was linear: investigate, build a case, act. F3 EA created a feedback loop, where the speed of exploitation and analysis determined operational success. Instead of hunting individuals, the cycle targeted the network itself, attacking its ability to regenerate. This doctrine, forged in the crucible of counterinsurgency, now stands at the center of U.S. strategy against designated terrorist organizations, including those that wear the face of a cartel. The lesson from Task Force 714 is clear. When intelligence and action are fused in real time, the window for criminal networks to adapt or hide shrinks from years to hours. Cartel security starts at the street corner. In cities and border towns across Mexico, networks of halcones, lookouts, scan intersections, monitor police radios, and text warnings about unfamiliar vehicles or uniformed patrols. These halcones are paid in cash or product, and their numbers swell during times of heightened risk. But their main value comes against slow, predictable threats. When law enforcement moves at the speed of bureaucracy, halcones buy precious minutes for cartel bosses to vanish, stash houses to be cleared, and evidence to disappear. Inside cartel headquarters, operational security is a daily obsession. Phones are never used for more than a few days. Encrypted messaging apps, often custom-built or modified from platforms like EncroChat, handle sensitive communications. Devices are swapped or destroyed at the first hint of compromise. This burner culture is enforced with strict discipline. A careless lieutenant risks not just his own safety, but the entire network's survival. Some crews go further, relying on air-gapped laptops for financial records and using couriers to transfer physical drives instead of risking digital interception. Yet these defenses are not limited to technology. Cartels invest heavily in human insulation. Bribed officials in police, customs, and local governments provide early warning of law enforcement interest. A trusted insider might flag a new investigation weeks before the first subpoena is issued. In some municipalities, entire police departments are on the payroll, turning routine patrols into cartel surveillance assets. This web of corruption has long been the most effective shield against traditional investigations. The DEA's case-building model, painstaking, methodical, reliant on informants and judicial warrants, gave cartels time to adapt. If a wiretap was suspected, that number was burned. If a safe house was compromised, it was emptied and abandoned overnight. Witness intimidation, document shredding, and asset transfers became routine. Cartel lawyers, often as skilled as their adversaries, challenged every warrant and exploited every loophole in the judicial process. With cases stretching over years, even a single leak could unravel months of work. But these same strengths reveal vulnerabilities when the threat moves faster than the system they were designed to defeat. Frequent device turnover slows law enforcement surveillance, but it cannot keep pace with real-time signals intelligence and persistent aerial surveillance. Halcones can spot a slow-moving police convoy, but they cannot warn against a drone orbiting at 20,000 feet, or a raid planned in minutes, not days. Corrupt officials, so effective at stalling court-authorized actions, are often bypassed entirely when operations move outside the legal system they control. Anonymous cartel observers, in intercepted messages from early 2025, describe a growing sense of unease. One lieutenant, codenamed Zorro-1, warns his boss, "The Gringo commandos don't wait for warrants. They come at night and no one knows until it's over." Another message references the futility of burning phones. They're in the air. They see everything. Even if we change numbers, they find us. The very layers of security that once made cartels nearly untouchable against law enforcement now show their limits. When the kill chain compresses years into hours, the old playbook, burners, bribes, lookouts, can be outpaced and outmaneuvered. The cartel's edge, built on time and warning, is dulled by a threat that doesn't play by the same rules. A Delta Force assault rarely numbers more than 24, but each operator moves with the weight of a vast network. NSA analysts, drone pilots, cyber forensics, and logistics teams, all focused on a single goal after the February 2025 designations to dismantle Cartel Command before it can adapt. The F3 EA cycle, find, fix, finish, exploit, analyze, runs as a seamless loop, each phase feeding the next. Find begins with NSA tailored access operations intercepting fragments of encrypted cartel chatter. Artificial intelligence combs through hours of satellite phone traffic, flagging anomalies, a sudden cluster of calls, a shift in code. When a promising lead surfaces, it lands in the fusion cell, where analysts from JSOC, CIA, and DEA pore over maps and drone feeds, searching for patterns that reveal a meeting or a move. Fix follows. An MQ-9 Reaper, circling high above Hidalgo, scans a rural compound. Facial recognition software matches a heat signature to a database built from years of seizures and arrests. The confirmation comes, Nemesio Oseguera Cervantes, El Mencho, is inside. The clock starts. Every minute is counted. Finish is swift. At a forward base, Delta operators receive the green light. 2 V-22 Ospreys lift off, flying low to avoid radar. The rules are clear. Lethal force is authorized against designated cartel leaders. 30 minutes after landing, the team breaches the compound. El Mencho is neutralized. DNA swabs confirm the kill. The team recovers 12 encrypted phones, 2 laptops, and handwritten ledgers. Exploit begins immediately. Cyber forensics teams set up portable labs in a secured room nearby. Within 20 minutes, the first device is decrypted. A ledger emerges, mapping fentanyl shipments and payment routes, naming trusted lieutenants. Every byte is imaged and sent to the Intelligence Integration Cell, where analysts redraw the cartel's network, linking logistics hubs in Mexico to distribution nodes in the United States. Analyze closes the loop. Within 4 hours of the initial intercept, the exploit packet, actionable intelligence pinpointing stash houses, couriers, and safe houses, is delivered to the Treasury's OFAC team, DEA prosecutors, and Mexican authorities. Follow-on raids are planned before sunrise. In a single night, what once took years to uncover is exposed and set for dismantling. Intercepted cartel messages after the raid show a new fear. One CJNG lieutenant writes, "The Gringo commandos don't wait for warrants. They come at night, and no one knows until it's over." Another says, "Even if we change numbers, they find us." The calculus has changed. The threat is erasure, not indictment. In June 2025, the queue-to-kill timeline against El Mencho was just under 4 hours. Exploitation of seized electronics produced actionable leads within 30 minutes. By dawn, Delta teams were already planning strikes on CJN, G lieutenants and financial managers. The kill chain, once reserved for counterterrorism, now cuts through Mexico's criminal empires. For cartel leaders, the old playbook is finished. The new reality is measured in minutes. President Claudia Sheinbaum faced a barrage of questions at Mexico's National Palace just hours after the June 2025 operation. She acknowledged the shared fight against organized crime but drew a clear line. Mexico's sovereignty, she insisted, could not be compromised by foreign military action. The Attorney General's office echoed this stance, emphasizing the importance of intelligence sharing, but warning that any future cross-border raids would require strict protocols and advance notification. Behind the official statements, frustration simmered. Leaked diplomatic cables revealed that Mexican officials had lodged formal protests over the lack of prior coordination, citing Article 16 of the Constitution and demanding a bilateral framework to prevent further breaches. In Washington, Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth defended the new approach during Senate testimony. He argued that the February designations gave the Pentagon the legal authority to apply counterterrorism tools to transnational cartels, describing the F3EA cycle as a force multiplier that could disrupt fentanyl supply chains at unprecedented speed. Hegseth assured lawmakers that every operation was subject to oversight, with quarterly briefings to congressional committees and post-action audits by the Department of Defense Inspector General. Still, concerns lingered. Human rights advocates pointed to the risk of civilian harm and the lack of judicial review in rapid kinetic operations. A civil liberties lawyer speaking to the press questioned whether the extraterritorial use of lethal force against non-state actors blurred the line between law enforcement and warfare. International organizations joined the debate. Amnesty International and Human Rights Watch called for transparent reporting on civilian impact and insisted that all actions comply with international humanitarian law. Their reports highlighted the need for proportionality and accountability, warning that the expansion of military authority could erode public trust and strain cooperation between the two countries. As the dust settled, the clash between operational urgency and legal oversight became impossible to ignore. The pressure on both governments grew, not only to deliver results but to justify the means by which those results were achieved. Security scholars studying the cartel response to the February 2025 designations point to a profound shift in leadership psychology. In intercepted messages, cartel lieutenants describe a new environment where the threat is not indictment or extradition, but sudden elimination. One expert draws a direct line to the hunt for Pablo Escobar in 1993, when Centra Spike's advisory signals intelligence helped Colombian forces pinpoint Escobar's location. That operation, though limited to surveillance and intelligence sharing, still fractured the Medellin cartel's command structure and sent shockwaves through criminal networks across the hemisphere. But the contrast is stark. Centra Spike operated under strict advisory rules, with no authority for direct United States action. Today, under Title 10, Delta Force is not just gathering intelligence, it is authorized to act on it, compressing the window from detection to strike to mere hours. This acceleration has strategic consequences. Cartel leaders, once able to rely on years of legal maneuvering and layers of human insulation, now face the possibility that a single slip, a phone call, a meeting, a moment of complacency could end their command overnight. The calculus is existential. Experts note that the specter of rapid kinetic targeting has already driven some mid-level bosses to abandon their posts or seek deals with authorities. The fear is not theoretical. Fentanyl, responsible for roughly 75% of United States opioid overdose deaths, is central to cartel profits. Yet its supply chain is now mapped and targeted with the same urgency once reserved for terrorist bomb makers. The precedent set by Escobar's downfall lingers, but the current threat is more immediate, more systematic, and, according to scholars, more likely to trigger organizational fractures and defections than any courtroom victory. For the cartels, the rules of survival have changed. Today, cartel bosses weigh survival against a system that no longer waits for evidence but acts on intelligence in real time. The shift from prosecution to direct neutralization redraws every line of risk and every future calculation. As military authorities stand ready, one fact remains: the playbook has changed. The consequences are just beginning to unfold. Share your thoughts on this turning point below.